And there was great showing by members of Team Multimedia, the GJA Awards 2016, and we know the awards were for categories and pieces that were entered for the scheme over the period of 2015. And what a great way to celebrate those who have achieved. Absent on the panel this morning as we get to celebrate our colleagues is Benedict Owusu. But Benedict Owusu also did a great job, especially with his feature on how juju plays an instrumental role, or the believers in football. But also here is Seth Kwame Boateng. And I say good morning to you, bro.
Good morning.
And also to my very good sister is Beatrice Sedu. How are you too?
Thank you.
Great. And Seth won 3 awards, bringing his total haul so far to 8. And for this year, 3 of them. Features for TV, there was news reporting for electronic media and environment, and as well as for courts and what reporting again?
Courts and crime.
Courts and crime is Beatrice Sedu. Congratulations, the 2 of you, as well as Benedict Owusu. But we also have Joseph Opoku Gakpo also taking home an award as well. And we have to say congratulations to you, Joseph Opoku Gakpo. I was having difficulty with Opoku, but that's how it goes. But let me start with you, since you're the woman among us, and we had a woman also winning very big at the induction of new medical practitioners at KNUST over the weekend
16 awards, I heard.
No,
or 12. Yes, 12, yes.
But it means that women are also doing it big, and you've always had the industry as yours. But for you, how inspiring is that, especially if you look at the story that you entered?
I think it inspires me a lot. The reason being that it tells me that a lot of people are looking out for the stories that matter to those that ordinarily people would not want to pay attention to. And this particular story, Corrosive Love, was on acid attacks on women.
I remember that.
Yes, and I'm sure if you monitor the news, it had become almost like a daily ritual, seeing women being attacked because they either refused the love proposals of men, or people were just jealous and decided to pour acid on them. And so for me, it encourages me that, listen, there are people who are not getting the needed attention, the downtrodden in society. These are the people we need to highlight. I always say that politicians have enough airtime to talk about whatever they want to do. They have everything at their disposal. What about the people that people don't feel like talking about? So it encourages me to want to do more stories about such people.
Oh, I call that NGO journalism, because you're serving as a buffer between the people and the have-nots and the vulnerable, as well as those who are the duty bearers or the policymakers. And Seth, the highlight of all the stories you present, how many of them did you present?
3.
3. And the highlight should be the one you're spearheading now. We call the Efiasi project.
Yeah. Yes. So I entered the Logged and Forgotten documentary. I entered Candidate for Death. That was on environment. And I did Talented Artist in Prison. Okay. I don't know if you remember that guy. He was in prison, drawing in the prison. And
I remember.
Yeah.
You've done so many too. You've done some too from the north as well. So you had an array of stories or features to to present.
Yes.
But in trying to make that decision, how did you arrive at that, knowing that you have a plethora of stories, which really are spanning various spheres or sectors or various themes?
Interestingly, because of Logged and Forgotten, it took all my time last year, so I was able to do only 3 documentaries, and all the 3 documentaries won an award. It's rather this year that I've done like 6 or so documentaries. Yeah, so the Candidate for Death was on cement pollution. So when the categories came, I said, well, I can file for the environmental part of it. Then the Talented Artist, I said, well, news reporting, let me try. And Logged and Forgotten, I said TV feature. And Ubibeka singing Afai.
But Beatrice, having been in the job for some time now, and looking at the difficulties as journalists or practitioners we have to go through, what would you say that it takes beyond, if you want to consider those variables that will spur you on? Because if you don't have cameras, you don't have good recorders, you don't have good transportation system, kind of defeats or even discourages you from going on? But what motivates you?
Indeed, I think it takes a real passion, because this job, my editor of his question has always said, it's a 24-hour job. And if you don't have the passion for it, looking at all the difficulties you have to face, you may just decide to drop along the way. Let me give an example of one story I did, which for me encourages me a lot of the time, apart from this corrosive love which I've received an award for. I did a story about this 14-year-old girl who was defiled. I'm sure you know that story.
Yes.
She was rejected by the family. She had to beg actually on the street to get money from Central Region to Accra. I found her, she was 4 months pregnant. In fact, the day I went to Medina Dovsu, she wasn't the reason I went there. She wasn't the reason why. I went to speak to, I had planned to speak to a woman apparently who had been raped by a taxi driver. I got there and she wasn't there. Then I saw her. She looked so pale and sick, and immediately I nearly was in tears. So I asked the commander, what is wrong with her? And she said, she's 4 months pregnant. And I said, can I do her story? She said, yes. I did her story just that evening. ACT Foundation and other people came in. She got a shelter. She's delivered. And as we speak, she's been reunited with the family in Ashanti region. And that story, when I had to go and follow up the day she started school, because she quit school after, it was, I don't want to mention.
So you kind of followed up too.
I followed up consistently. And I wanted to do the story. I got to the village, there was no proper hotel. The one I got, I was given the bed. There was no covering cloth. There was no pillow. It was just the bed sheet. And the bed was hard. And the place was cold. And I had not even done the story yet. I had to lie on the bed like that. I could barely sleep. But the next morning, I woke up excited that I was going to tell the story of how this girl had been, you know, put back in school. And so I'm looking at real passion and the need to want to make a change and impact the ordinary lives, like I said. That is what pushes you on.
And indeed, that's what pushes many young people to aspire to be journalists, etc., telling the story. What's the significant, perhaps, story out of all the features you presented that you can pinpoint and say, this is what touched you most at? Out of all the 3 stories you presented, which of the characters, which of the protagonists, so to speak, really has a certain background you thought touched you the most?
I think the talented artist, the gentleman who was incarcerated through what the father told the police, and the fact that he was drawing even in the prison to tell the pain he had gone through. And God has been so good. Since he came out, he's helping his society. He's painting police stations, painting churches. And when I spoke to him last week, he had 7 people working under him now. 7. Wow. And that makes me so excited. And I still have people calling to ask if he needs more support. Only last week, somebody called from Los Angeles that he wants to find out if the guy has a container. I said, no. He said, okay, I'm going to get him a container. And that makes me so happy, so excited. Anytime we speak, he gives me progress report, and I'm like, we thank God for that. And that inspires me a lot. That's the reason I'm doing this job, to see changes in the lives of people. I can't stand pain, so I don't want to see people in pain. That's what encourages me. That's what pushes me on.
The thing is, for many of the times as media people, we tend to touch on the stories so heartily about people, but it seems down the lane we tend to forget them, or the audience or the society for which we do the stories tend to forget them. Do we plan on doing some recollections once in a while to keep the stories of those who have touched our lives, touched the lives of our audience going, so to speak?
Of course. And just to say something briefly, I did a story this year again about this woman with 2 children who were under the Ofanko overpass. I'm sure you know that she now has a home. She has a store of her own. The children are back in school, and this is something that I would want to let the public know, because it's not just about these achievements I've spoken of. At least the progress report, like Seth Kwame Boateng just mentioned, it encourages people who, especially those who want to help, to know that what they are also doing is yielding some results.
Oh, good. It means that you're having impact as journalists.
Oh,
But
exactly.
you are having 8 of the holds, as far as the awards are concerned. I would want to know for the plaques whether they've changed. I know it's a sheepish question though, because I used to win once in a while back in the day, and it used to be wood. I don't know yours now.
Yeah, so as
Oh,
you can
they're all
see,
glass.
yeah, glass.
Glass
Yes.
plaques. Okay, that's great. So, what next for you, especially you, Seth, because you have a lot going on for you.
Yeah, I've a lot of things I'm doing now. I have 2 documentaries I have to produce before the year ends. One is Your Good Friend Turned Your Enemy. It's on rabies. Then I have another one on sickle cell coming up. And I have to finish these 2 before the year ends, so I'm under real pressure.
Great,
Yeah.
great. All right, and you too?
Yes, I have a documentary on terrorism to work on. I was in Nigeria quite recently. So
Yeah.
much.
I saw you on social media.
Yes, so
You tended to have loved Nigeria.
I loved
Abuja.
Abuja.
More
I loved
specifically.
Abuja. Yes. So I have that documentary to work on. I also have a documentary on children. Because I haven't started gathering the data yet, I would want to keep you in suspense. So that I intend to do it first quarter of next year. But for the terrorism, I'm going to work on it before the year runs out.
For the BBC, they tend to take you through some, I think Reuters too, they take you through some drills. That is if you have to be a reporter. And I think for many of the international agencies, but we don't tend to do that here. So we'll take you through a training camp, let's say like a soldier, and so that when there's a bomb, what you need to do.
Oh, I have had that training.
Okay,
I
you've
had the
had-
opportunity to have
All
that
right.
training.
Okay, so it's good. So let's speak to him. I'm sure we can link you up to where you can have that sort of training. But again, we'll have to say congratulations to our colleagues who are not on set now. Joseph Opoku Gakpo, as well as Benedict Owusu and Akwesi Dankwa did very well in that very report. I listened to it. It was about football and its linkages with black medicine or African juju, so to speak, or voodooism, and the beliefs of the players as well as the technical people in the sport. But Beatrice Edu also winning another award in court and crime, and Seth Kwame Boateng, news reporting, electronic, environment, features, etc. Sounds like Lionel Messi at the European Awards. Well, thank you very much, Seth Kwame Boateng, as well as Beatrice Edu.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope to have you sometime again next year when we're still on the show. And then you would have been again Journalist of the Year because you have been toppled, right?
Yeah.
And congratulations again to our colleague, my senior in school, Anas Aremeyaw Anas. Well, I guess one day I'll be kidnapped to tell whether I know his face or not. Yes, I do know him. Well, we're taking a break. When we come back, we'll have a lot more to talk about because we know that the public utilities and workers' union, so to speak, that's PU, they call them, their chapter, the ECG, will be in the studio. And the head of the Senior Staff Association is also going to talk to us about their concerns about a private concession that government intends giving out to a private concessionaire and how it would have an impact on staff management and the performance of the company. And that very conversation will be held by Mama Viosu Abuaje. Do stay on. We're taking a break. We're talking ECG next.